G'day legends, today we're going to run you through the top 5 performance modifications for touring and towing. The 5 modifications we have chosen are going to improve your reliability, performance and maybe even save you $1 at the pump. We haven't just pulled these modifications out our bum. We've been running them for about 2.5 years around Australia doing some of the toughest tracks. We've had 0 major breakdowns, but we think the 5 modifications that we're sharing today has played a major factor in keeping us on the road and not on the back of a flatbed. Full disclaimer, none of the brands that we mentioned today are paying us for this video. This is coming off our own backs. We get this question a lot. So we thought we'd make a video and try to help as many people as physically possible. Like we said, we've done some shit tracks and we've also been towing our maximum towing capacity on our old vehicle and now our current vehicle, which is this 2016 V8 diesel twin turbo Land Cruiser 200 series. All right, so I'm sure this video is definitely going to upset some of the purists, but we don't care. Let's start the video and kick it in the guts. All right, this first mod is not going to come to a surprise, hopefully, to anyone. A snorkel certainly helps you get through the river crossings when you're doing them remote tracks. Normal intakes on vehicles such as the 200 series are literally under the guards, and if you suck water in there, it goes straight into your airbox, sucks it into the motor, and you get a hydro locked motor. So you definitely don't want that. So that's probably the first major reason why you install a snorkel on your vehicle. However, it has a secondary purpose. So the second reason you install a snorkel is because it supplies the engine with cleaner air. Now, it's going to be sucking air from a lot higher up. From under the guards, it's dusty. It's close to that red hot black tarmac on the ground. It's hotter down there. So up top, we're getting cleaner air. It's cooler air. And modern diesels love that. We've always run the Safari snorkels on all of our vehicles. We are not sponsored by Safari, but we do love their products and we do run them in all our vehicles. And if we buy a car tomorrow, I'd be putting a Safari snorkel on it too. So we've coupled that with a new airbox because these 200 series have a real issue for dusting the airbox. But I think that putting a snorkel on any car is not only going to increase its reliability, definitely going to increase the longevity of the engine without a doubt. And some people even say they get a saving at the pump too, which we haven't. I don't think I've ever noticed a real saving, maybe like 0.5 of a litre on the old Prado. But yeah, some people even say you save a bit of fuel too. So definitely look at the snorkel if you are wanting to do a bit of touring, and especially for a lap around Australia. All right, so number 2 mod is something related to EGTs. So EGTs stand for exhaust gas temperature. Now, EGT, well, high-end EGTs in particular, are enemy number 1 when you're touring around Australia, especially when you are towing something. Now, when the car is working really hard and it is struggling, maybe the climate's too hot, the EGTs definitely do go up. Now, the higher your exhaust gases get, the more chance you have of having catastrophic issues, mechanical issues with your engine. Now, the issues can range from melting pistons, cracking heads, destroying turbos, you name it. And the healthy EGT range, so the healthy temperature range, definitely varies from vehicle to vehicle. For me, in the Prado, I was going to call it a Land Cruiser Prado, so the Prado and Leroy here, I always like to keep them under 500. We never sort of have an issue, even towing, we never go over 500. We very rarely get over 400. Percy the Prado did run a lot hotter than this car as well. So what we have done, we've installed a Manta exhaust on Percy the Prado 2.5 years ago when we first set off, and that was an epic system. That wasn't their stainless steel system. That was a 3-inch turbo back system, it definitely made the EGTs go down. Plus, it made the car sound really good. The Manta system on the Prado really did set it off. And if anyone tells you they've put an exhaust on their car purely for performance and not for sound, they're lying to you. Because we had such a good track record with Manta, we've chosen to put it on Leroy here as well. We've chosen their twin 3-inch to 4-inch tailpipe, so single 4-inch tailpipe. And we've had it for about 7 months now, and it has been absolutely flawless. We knew it was going to perform well only because we tested it so well, and we back Manta. I think that's the simplest, easiest way is to mitigate against EGTs. When the car came standard to us, it was like it was breathing through this straw here. The engine was having to work hard to expel the exhaust gases. Now, with a bigger diameter system, the Manta system, it's breathing a lot better, especially with the Prado. It didn't have DPFs, but putting in exhaust on your vehicle is definitely the #1 way to mitigate against EGTs, and it's so simple and easy to do. So definitely recommend that. We've had their non-stainless and stainless version, definitely good pieces of kit, and it's all well and good having really good air intake through that Safari Snorkel, but it's also got to come out easy out the other end. And that sounds really wrong, but it's definitely worth doing, putting exhaust on your vehicle, especially if you're towing and doing long touring. So going back to that original point, no major mechanical issues, touch so much wood. We're out in the Savannah way right now, so we can't afford to have anything go wrong, but touch wood, we haven't had a mechanical issue for almost 3 years of hard touring. So we've pushed out our gear to the limits, and I honestly think putting an exhaust on your car, obviously it's going to sound better. Some people, after they put their Manta systems in, have also said to us that they've seen saving at the Bowser as well, but I personally haven't. But not to say that you won't in your personal vehicle, but I definitely think little modifications like that definitely help prolong the vehicle on like a big lifespan. So testament to the system, testament to Manta. Definitely recommend Manta if you are going to put an exhaust system through your car. It served us really, really well. So let's get on to number 3. So this next one's definitely going to upset the purists. Number 3 modification for us is definitely having the car ECU remapped. These cars, no surprise, come straight from Toyota, really detuned, because Toyota's name in the industry is incredibly safe, reliable, and these engines are capable of doing much, much more, but still maintaining the reliability. So we have had this car retuned, remapped, whatever you want to call it. It is putting out a fair bit more power. I think we're around about 30-something% extra in power and torque, which is really good numbers. We've had it tuned at Ultimate Diesel Tuning. They've done a fantastic job, really good crew down there, and we are very, very happy with how it's gone. I think we're making 700 Newton meters at all four wheels. And I'm not too sure about the kilowatts and the horsepower, but yeah, I'm all about the torque anyway. So we've had it remapped, retuned. It's a very safe tune. The AFRs and all that sort of stuff is very, very safe. Everything is very safe on this vehicle. We couldn't stress it enough to them when they were tuning it. We said, we want the most baby tune you've got. However, it has made such a massive difference performance-wise. We have saved fuel with this one as well. I reckon we've saved 2 litres per 100 since we've had it all done, which is really good. That's towing the van, obviously. We've probably only saved about 0.5 not towing. It just seems to have really helped in that that 2,000 rev range that we sit on very oftenly on the highway and stuff. And it's safe to say we've done some pretty crappy trucks towing the van, and I reckon we would have got in trouble a few times if we didn't have that little bit extra power. And for us, we really rate the tune. We love it, and the remap has done us really, really well. Before we spoke a lot about EGTs, one thing we have noticed with the tune, which we definitely weren't expecting, this was not expected, but the EGTs on this vehicle have dropped dramatically since we've had it tuned. So before, when we were sitting on the highway with the current modifications, before we had it tuned, the EGTs, this is not towing, we're sitting at around 360. Towing, they were just over 400. And since we've had it tuned, now we're towing comfortably at 95, 100, and the EGTs are sitting at 320, 330 degrees, which is absolutely nothing. Very, very happy with that. Yeah, that's not even registering on some EGT gauges. So for a big V8 engine with almost 3.5 tonne behind it, that's a win in our book. We're doing about 22 litres per 100 average. and we are loving it so far. It's definitely been worthwhile for us. All right, so that leads us on to number 4 modification. We're getting through them now, bear with us, but underneath this intercooler right here on top of our engine, we have something called an EGR valve. Now, EGR valve stands for exhaust gas recirculation. Now, this mechanism underneath this intercooler is designed to recirculate the exhaust gases, which makes the car a lot more green, a lot more ozone friendly, let's say, and it doesn't put out nearly as many emissions as an older diesel without this thing. So the most simple way to describe why we have done this 4th modification is the EGR valve is pretty much recirculating the exhaust gases, and when them exhaust gases mix with the engine oil blow-by, it creates this sooty black paste, and that black paste coats the EGR. Not only that, but it coats your intake manifold, your throttle body, and a lot of other very, very crucial mechanisms in there to keep the car breathing well. And over a period of time, it will suffocate your engine if you don't get it treated. Now, we had 50,000 on this engine when we first got it, and we had it cleaned, the EGR valve, the intake manifold cleaned out, and let me tell you, it was a pigsty in there. There was probably 10 mil of this cakey black tarry shit inside the engine, and it was going the way of suffocating the engine. Now, that's only after 50,000 kilometers on this vehicle. You could only imagine one that's done 200,000 and it hasn't had a clean out. We've had that fully cleaned out after 50,000, and it is a beautiful running engine now. It's breathing better. The air is flowing a lot better to the engine, and it's just overall performing well. We saved fuel when we did this. The car felt more responsive as well as soon as we had it done. And it pretty much rejuvenates the engine, and I have no shadow of a doubt that this prolongs the life of your engine for sure. Now, there's a few reasons we didn't get a catch can. A catch can is to catch that oil blow-by, so there's only exhaust gases in that EGR now, so there's nothing to mix the exhaust gases with, no blow-by. It gets caught in this catch can, and then you dump it every 10,000 or whatever. However, we have seen some studies done that it does pressurize the crankcase, and for us, that just wasn't something we were willing to take a gamble on, especially when we rely on the vehicle. There's a big wasp flying around somewhere here. We rely on this vehicle, and having an issue with the crankcase being pressurized was just something that we weren't willing to gamble on. So for us, we'll just get it cleaned out every now and again, and we're very, very happy with that. The number 4 modification, definitely get an intake manifold clean out. All right, let's go to number 5. Now, are we up to number 5? All right, so number 5 modification on our list. Now, this one's specifically for people that own an automatic. So there's a fair few of you out there that own automatics. Now, this modification is going to seem very foreign to a few people. Now, it's called a torque converter lockup kit. Some people will know exactly what I'm about to explain. The easiest way to explain it is to give you some background on the transmission of these automatics and how they work. Now, everyone knows automatics don't have clutches. So there's a thing called a torque converter, and what that thing does, the torque converter slips, and when it's slipping, it's taking pressure off the engine. However, when it slips, it creates friction. There's not a one-to-one drive. You'll see your revs flare up and down, and as they flare up and the harder the torque converter's spooling, the more heat the more friction that you're gonna create. Now, a lot of people have no idea about torque converter temps, and this mod, the torque converter lockup kit, is to mitigate against those temperatures. So the higher the temperatures, the no good. You want that thing cool as. Now, when it is locked, a lot of cars lock when they get into 4th or 5th gear. And when that locks, it becomes a 1-to-1 drive ratio between your automatic transmission and your torque converter. There's no slipping and there's no heat. So then your torque converter temps return to the same as your transmission temps. So it's very important that you monitor both of those things. Now, there's a button here, and this button actually brings it in earlier. So I can bring that in earlier so there's less friction and less slipping. And also, it brings the torque converter in earlier without me pressing a button. So there's an auto and a manual switch. I most of the time leave it on automatic so that the actual program itself can work out when to lock it in. Normally it's around 78 kilometers an hour. It locks in at 4th, the torque converter, but I can also manually do that through 1st, 2nd, 3rd gears in this car. We tow normally in 4th and 5th gear, and all the time our torque converter is locked because of this mechanism right here. That means our torque converter temps are lower, We monitor that through our scan gauge 3 right here. The only thing that you have to be very, very careful of is if you lock in your torque converter manually and your car's not doing enough revs, it's like you riding up a big steep hill on your push bike in a really high gear. You know how hard your legs have got to work to get up that hill? That's what your engine's doing, and you can snap shit in your engine. So just as bad as EGTs are, having your torque converter locked in at a real low rev range that your car can't handle, definitely look out for that, because that will snap shit. So that's the only stipulation of this. A lot of the times I've got it on auto and you don't have to worry about it. You just drive the car and the temperatures are a lot cooler. Now these 200 series in particular don't need a transmission cooler. Normally when we're towing, even on a hot day, it's around 60 degrees, 65 degrees, the torque converter and the transmission. So that's very, very good. The Prado, I think we used to get to around 90 most of the time. So yeah, 60 degrees, I'll take that any day of the week. All right, bonus one. It's hit me in the face. If I don't talk about this, I'm doing a serious disservice to everyone out there. Scan gauge 3, I've mentioned it before. If you are touring Australia and you don't carry a scan gauge, you're bloody insane, because I rely on this all the time. It tells me all my temperatures. When I talk about EGTs, they're right here. If you can see that, when I'm idling here, they're at 90 degrees. It tells me all my temperatures right here. I know when there's an issue. I know when I'm working the car too hard. I know when I have to change shit, back it off a little bit, or if I'm fine to put my foot down and really go hard. I know from all this readout right here. Now, the scan gauge 3 is through an OB2 port. It connects directly to your ECU. So all this information is directly from the horse's mouth. It tells me all this stuff, and this is stuff that I need. Coolant temperatures, manifold pressures, boost pressures, transmission temperatures, EGTs. EGTs is definitely the most important one, but definitely don't leave home without some sort of monitoring system, whether that's a cheap app on your phone with a little dongle on your OB2 port, doesn't matter. Just get one of these things. And failing that, the second best thing is at least a scan tool that you can plug into your port and diagnose issues when you do have them, because you don't have a scan gauge 3. So definitely carry them 2 bits of kit. We're going to make some videos in the future about scan tools. But yeah, definitely carry a scan gauge of some sort, whether that's ultra gauge. This one doesn't matter. They're all good. Just carry one of them. Rightio, Turkey Joes. I hope you've enjoyed this video. It's definitely designed to help you guys. We get a lot of questions about this stuff. At the end of the day, you can travel Australia in a Toyota Corolla that costs you $2,000 from Marketplace, you know, so you don't need all this stuff. This is purely just the stuff we choose to run. And yeah, we love it, we swear by it, and I think the 5 mods we've spoken about today have played the biggest part in keeping our engines safe, reliable, powerful, and that's why we haven't ended up on a flatbed, touch a lot of wood, in almost 3 years of touring this beautiful country. If you guys didn't see a modification that you thought should have been in our top 5, please let us know in the comments below. Hope you've enjoyed it. If you got anything out of today's vid, definitely hit the subscribe button. We release these videos every now and again. Bit of value-tainment, I call it. And yeah, we'll see you next time. Thanks heaps for watching, guys.